I never thought the home I helped build for my son would one day feel like a prison. My name is Eleanor, and I am 80 years old. For the last 7 years, I lived with my only son, Michael, and his wife, Vanessa. After my husband passed, Michael insisted I move in. "Mom, this is your home too," he said with tears in his eyes. I believed him. I tried to be small. I cooked their favorite meals, folded laundry, and stayed quiet when arguments rose like thunder between them. I rocked their 2 little grandchildren to sleep when Vanessa was too exhausted. I gave them the money from selling my old house so they could pay off their mortgage. I thought I was family. But some people only see an old woman as a burden. It happened on a rainy Thursday evening. I had just finished washing the dinner dishes when my knees gave out again. I dropped a glass. The shatter echoed through the kitchen like a warning. Vanessa stormed in, her face tight with years of resentment she had never said out loud until that moment. "Eleanor, I can't do this anymore," she said coldly. "You need to leave. Pack your things. I'll call a taxi in the morning." I stood there, water dripping from my wrinkled hands, staring at the woman my son had chosen. My heart didn't just break. It shattered into pieces so small I knew I'd never find them all. Michael wasn't even home. He was working late again. When he finally came back that night, I was already sitting on the edge of my bed with one suitcase, the same one I had brought when I moved in. I waited for him to fight for me. Instead, I heard them whispering in the hallway. "She's too much, Michael. Your mother is destroying our marriage." And my son, my own flesh and blood, stayed silent. That night I cried until there were no tears left. I was 80 years old, being thrown out like an old piece of furniture no one wanted anymore.
The next morning, the taxi came. Michael helped me into the car, but he wouldn't look me in the eyes. Vanessa stood at the door with her arms crossed, watching like she had finally won a long war. I spent the first 2 weeks in a small DAMP room at Sunnybrook Retirement Home. The walls smelled of medicine and regret. Every night I replayed that moment in the kitchen. The way her voice cut through me. The way my son chose silence over his own mother. I stopped eating properly. My blood pressure climbed so high the nurses worried I wouldn't make it to 81. But the real pain wasn't in my body. It was in my soul. The betrayal ran so deep, I felt it in my bones. Then one afternoon, my granddaughter Lily came to visit me secretly. She was only 9, but children see everything. She climbed into my lap and whispered, "Grandma, Mommy said you were a burden. Daddy cried after you left, but Mommy told him to stop being weak." That was the moment something inside me shifted. I realized I wasn't just an old woman who had been discarded. I was a mother who had sacrificed everything for a son who had forgotten where he came from, and I still had power. Years ago, before I sold my house, I kept one important thing, the deed to a valuable piece of land my late husband and I owned upstate. Michael didn't know I had never transferred it to him. I had planned to surprise them with it as a gift for their 10th anniversary. Now that gift would never reach their hands. I also remembered every secret Vanessa thought I didn't know. The credit card debt she hid from Michael. The messages I accidentally saw on her phone with a man named David from her office. The way she had slowly turned my son against me for years with little comments and complaints. Pain can destroy you, or it can sharpen you into something stronger. I made quiet calls. I spoke to my old lawyer. I spoke to my sister who lived across the state. And slowly, I began to weave the threads of justice. Not with anger, but with the calm clarity that only a woman who has lived 80 years can possess. 3 months later, everything changed. Michael received a letter from my lawyer. The land, worth nearly $400,000, had been placed in a trust for my grandchildren. He and Vanessa would never touch it. The same day, the bank called him about suspicious transfers from their joint account. Vanessa had been secretly paying for hotel rooms and expensive gifts for her lover. The storm hit their house like lightning. Michael finally opened his eyes. He found the messages. He found the lies. When he confronted her, Vanessa tried to twist everything, saying I was a bitter old woman who had turned him against her. But this time, my son chose truth over comfort. He asked her to leave. I didn't gloat when Michael came to the retirement home with tears streaming down his face. He knelt beside my chair like a little boy again and begged for forgiveness. "I failed you, Mom. I was weak. Please come home." I touched his face with my trembling hand and said, This was never about coming home, Michael. This was about remembering who raised you. I moved back, but things were different. Vanessa was gone. The house felt lighter. My grandchildren ran into my arms every evening. And my son finally became the man I raised him to be. Vanessa tried to come back months later, broken and alone. But some doors, once closed with cruelty, never open again. Today, I sit on the porch watching the sunset, my great-grandchildren playing at my feet. My heart still carries scars, but it is no longer shattered. If there's one thing I've learned in 80 years, it's this. Never mistake kindness for weakness. Blood means nothing if respect is gone. And when someone throws you away like you're nothing, the universe has a way of showing them exactly how much you are worth. I forgave my son, but I never forgot what they did. And that, my dear ones, is how an 80-year-old woman taught her family that love without honor is no love at all. The end.